So before starting the process of creating an infinity mandala, let's look at the art supplies that we need for this particular design. So you just need all the basic mandala art supplies only that you usually use. So we are going to make an A4 size artwork. So I am using an ivory sheet which is something around 120 GSM paper, which is a very smooth paper for drawing mandalas. If you don't have ivory sheet, you can pick up any white paper of your choice, and it must be A4. You can also opt in for A5 or A3 size paper, but the measurements that we have taken are in accordance with the A4 size paper. So make sure that you have an A4 size white paper, and you can use any paper, but it must be of at least 90 to 100 GSM, because we are going to use a lot of colors as well. Apart from the paper, you need a pencil. Now I generally use mechanical pencil, but you can use any type of pencil that you usually use. It's not important that you have to use mechanical pencils, but mechanical pencils prove to be like a better option for drawing. But if you don't have, just pick up any pencil of your choice. Now we also need a compass. Now I'm using Maped technical compass here, because because this compass has a lot of more options, and we can also just attach the other part and just use the compass with pen. But in this particular course, we are not going to use the compass with the pen, so you can use any of the compass that you have. Even if you have the regular student compass, that is perfectly fine. So I am using the Maped technical compass. We will be using the compass with pencil and for drawing purposes only, so don't worry if your compass does not fit with the pens, etc. So just take any compass that you have. We also need rulers, and for the measurements, so you can either take any of the rulers that you have. You can take the smaller one or you can take the bigger one, whatever suits you. We also need protractor, as you already know that for mandala protractor is a must have. So you can either take the full circle 360 degree protractor, or you can also take the 180 degree protractor, whatever you have. Both of these will work perfectly fine. So for protractor, you can choose any of them. Now we also need eraser, because we are going to just draw a rough sketch and draw pencil lines which we will need to erase later. Apart from that, we also need some fine liners. So this particular design is going to be a colorful one, so make sure that you have some colored pens as well and black pens as well. If you don't wish to use colors, you can just stick to just black pen, but this particular design is looks more beautiful when we are using colors. So I am using Rorito fine liners here, because according to me these are the best ones. So you can use any of the fine liners or colored pens. You can also use colored gel pens if you have them. And if you don't have fine liners, it's totally fine. You can use any of the colored gel pens, or you can just stick with your black fine liner or black pen that you use. But make sure that your pen nib is not more than 0.4 or 0.5 mm. These fine liners are something around 0.5 mm, so it makes it perfect to draw these kind of mandalas. So we will need all of these supplies. So I would just repeat all of the supplies once again. So we need an A4 size paper. I am taking an ivory paper. You can also take any of the papers like Bristol paper or your regular printer paper as well. But make sure that the paper is at least 90 to 100 GSM. And you will need pencil, eraser, compass. You can take technical compass or student compass, whatever you have. You will need protractors. You can take the 180 degree protractor or the 360 degree protractor, whatever suits you. We will also need rulers. You can take any of the rulers, 15 centimeter long or 30 centimeter long, or whatever ruler you have, and some black and colored fine liners. So this was all about the the art supplies that we need to draw the infinity mandala. So once you have gathered all of these supplies, then we can simply move on to the next part, which is basically drawing the mandala. So first of all, we are going to draw the basic sketch of the Infinity Mandala. So basically the outlining or the sketch, and then we are going to move on to the other processes. So take your A4 size paper, and we have to find the midpoint of the paper. Now how do we do that? Now just measure the length of the paper. It must be around 30 centimeter, because the length of an A4 size sheet is 30 centimeter, and the width or the breadth of the A4 size paper is something around 21 centimeter. So just measure the length of the paper, it's 30 centimeter, and divide the 30 centimeter by 2. So basically 30 centimeter divided by 2 would be 15 centimeter. So mark a point at 15 centimeter like this. Now you can do this with any type of paper. If it's your A5 or your square paper or your A3 size, whatever, this formula applies to all sorts and all measurements of papers. So 15 centimeter, and then horizontally it is 21 centimeter. Horizontally it's 21 centimeter, and we are going to divide 21 by 2, so we will get 10.5 centimeter. So mark a point at 10.5 centimeter. So you have marked a point at 15 centimeter. So draw a horizontal line like this, and then the 10.5 centimeter, draw a straight vertical line. So in this way you have found the midpoint of the paper. So you can apply this formula in any size of paper, whether it's A4 or A5 or A3 as well. So let me just repeat the process. The length of the paper is 30 centimeter. So we have divided it by 2. Basically just make the 30 centimeter into half. It will be 15 centimeter. So mark a point there, and then draw a horizontal line on 15 centimeter. Then the width of the paper is 21 centimeter, and then you mark a point 21 divided by 2, which is basically 10.5 centimeter, and then draw a vertical line. So basically you have divided the entire paper into 4 equal parts and found the midpoint very easily. So this is the first first step of drawing any sort of mandala. You can you can draw it with any sort of mandala. So finding the midpoint is very crucial. So if you are using a square paper, you can just join the diagonal lines, and you can also find the midpoint in that way as well. But I feel that this process is the most accurate, because we are taking the most accurate measurements according to the paper, and there is no discrepancy even for 0.1 centimeter. So there is another way. You can just join the diagonal lines and just create a cross kind of lines, 2 diagonal lines, and you will be able to find the midpoint in that way as well. But that usually applies well in the square paper. So for rectangle papers, I always prefer and always suggest this particular method, because it is the most accurate. So we have found the midpoint. Now for drawing the Infinity Mandala, we basically need two mandalas. So basically if you see, when you are drawing an infinity shape, or you are drawing the number 8, you can also draw 2 circles, and basically it is 2 circles joined. So first of all, we are going to understand the basic structure and basic sketch of the Infinity Mandala. So if you look closely into an infinity design, so basically it is a compilation of 2 circles. So basically what are we going to do is, we are going to make 2 sets of circles in the upper portion and in the lower portion, and then we are going to join them and draw the infinity design. So for that, take your ruler and just keep it at 6 centimeters. So since this is an A4 size paper, and we are going to draw 3 to 4 layers, so I am taking 6 centimeter. Feel free to experiment with the measurements as well once you have learnt the basic designing and structure of Infinity Mandala. So keep it at 6 centimeter from the midpoint and mark a point 6 centimeter upwards and 6 centimeter downwards. So basically while drawing an Infinity Mandala, you have to make sure that whatever you are doing in the upper portion, you have to just replicate it in the downward portion as well. So if you are marking a point at 6 centimeter upwards, you will have to mark the point at 6 centimeter downwards as well. So if you are taking like 4 centimeter or 5 centimeter, make sure to do the same in both the areas. So that is the main foundation of Infinity Mandala, wherein whatever you are doing in the in the upward portion, you are doing it in the downward portion as well. So this is your 6 centimeter. Now we are going to take the compass and we are going to draw circles. So I am just taking some approximate measurements for the circles, so I'll also show you. So this is something around 3 or 2.5 centimeters. So let's make it like 3 centimeter around, like this. So basically it is not at all compulsory to draw the circles using a specific measurement like 3 centimeter or whatever, because the main thing that is important here is that we are drawing circles on the upper portion, and the same measurement we are going taking in the downward portion as well. So let's take an approximate measurement, and I am going to draw my first circle right here. So these are the midpoints of the circles that we are going to draw, the 6 centimeter portions, right? So draw your first circle. Now you can take any measurement for the radius for the circles right here. Now using the same radius, draw another circle in the lower portion. So if you if you are not new to the world of mandalas, you know that we use this point for drawing circles and then we draw concentric circles. But since this is an Infinity Mandala, so we are not going to use this point for drawing the circles. We are going to use this horizontal and vertical line just to have a measurement, have a distance, so that we can basically divide the paper into equal parts. Now just increase the radius of your compass. Now you can like measure it like 1 centimeter or 2 centimeter each, or you can just just make it an approximation. So basically I am just taking an approximation like this and then draw another circle. Now as I already told you, you have to do the same in the lower portion as well. Now you are free to decide the radius of the circles. Feel free to do that, but make sure that the upper portion and the lower portion are equal. Now we are going to draw more circles. So now to make the Infinity Mandala look really pretty and neat, make sure that the distance between the two circles remains the same in all the all the layers of the mandala. So usually when we draw mandala, it's not important or it's not mandatory to maintain the distance and maintain the same distance between the circles. But in Infinity Mandala, it is I won't say that it's mandatory, but it is suggested because it looks more because it looks more neat and clean. And why, I will also when we will draw the basic shapes and patterns, you will know why drawing having the same distance is important. So now if you are taking the measurement, measure it, or just you can also just like take approximation. And now we are going to draw another circle. Now as you can see that the distance between the first and the second circle and the second and the third circle is same. You have to maintain this distance. So now do the same in the lower portion as well, like this. Now as you can see that we have completed like 2 circles. Now we are going to draw one more or like 2 more. Now again the same distance. So now when you will draw the more circles, you will see that they are overlapping with each other, which is perfectly fine, and which is why we are going to draw the infinity shape. So don't worry if your circles are overlapping with each other, because that's the main point of infinity mandala and we want that. So don't just start worrying. Now we have some space left, so we can absolutely draw one more layer. You can draw as many layers as you want. Just make sure that the number of the distance between the circles and the radius and everything remains the same. So now this is the basic structure, basic sketch of your infinity mandala. So now you can see that we have made like 2 circles, and then now we are going to join these and draw the infinity shape. So for convenience and for a better understanding, I am going to number the circles as well, so that when we just join these two, it's easy to understand. So for this particular portion, this is your circle number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and the same goes with 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So this is a very easy way to understand and remember and draw the circles. So now as you can see, let me just show you the design. So as you can see that here the circles are basically joined and forming an infinity shape. So basically what we have to do is that we have to join these 2 set of circles in a way that they are just making a infinity shape, and they are just combined with each other, and we are able to create that loop. Now we have to create the loop layer by layer. So as you can see that the loop is created. So this is the layer 1, this is the layer 2 and this is the layer 3. So how do we do that layering and that that joining? We are going to see that. So numbering, you can just number it because it's easy to understand. Now what are we going to do is we are going to just take your pencil and we are going to basically join these two and draw a rough like a sketch. So now what an infinity looks like. So go layer by layer. So now we are going to join the first circle with the 5th circle. So basically let me show you the design. So basically what happens is you are going from inside to outside. So when you look closely at the infinity mandala design, you are starting from the inside, but when you are coming down, it is the outside layer of your mandala, and the same goes in the opposite direction as well. So if you are like, this is the outermost layer, so it like starting from the outermost, and then when it is coming down, it is becoming the innermost layer, and accordingly the size of the basic shapes and patterns also increases and reduces accordingly. So basically you can either say that we are going from inward to outward, or we are going outward to inward, whatever you feel. So because infinity is basically that only, we are going from inside to the outer part, and also again from the outer part to the inside. So that's how the loop is created, right? So now we are going to create that loop. So for that, this is your first circle. Now you have to join it with the 5th circle. So basically the first circle is going to be joined with the 5th, that is the last circle. So if you have created 4 circles, then your first circle will be joined with the 4th, and so on. So basically now take this as your reference. This I'll just tilt my paper a bit. So these lines are for reference. So take this line for reference, and when you are now just draw a very light sketch. When you are coming to the this midline, just draw a swirl kind of shape like an arc to join the first circle with the 5th circle. Now it's totally fine if you don't get it in the first in the first attempt. It's totally fine. Just erase and draw a arc, or just a joining portion like like this. So first circle will be joined with the 5th circle. Now we are going to do the same in all the layers as well. So the second circle. Now here you might get confused a little bit, but it's totally fine, take your own time. So this is your second circle, just mark it, and this circle is going to be joined with the fourth circle. So the number of the numbering of the circles is hence very convenient and very easy for you to understand. So now as we are progressing, like we are 1 2 3 4 5, we are like going in the descending order, like 5 4 3 2 1. Okay, so first circle was joined with the fifth circle. Now second circle, this is your second circle, remember, and it will be joined with the fourth circle. So similarly, just make an arc kind of shape and join it with that, like this. Right, now you have to make sure that this is the portion, the spacing is maintained. So make sure that you are drawing it very carefully, so that the radius of the circle and the distance between the two circles that we are trying to maintain here is maintained in this portion as well. So now your first and your second first infinity loop is done. Now third and third. Now since we are came to the mid portion of the mandala, the third circle will be joined with the third circle of the lower portion. So this is your third circle, and this is your third circle of the lower part. So very carefully repeat the same process and just join these two using a line or an arc like this. So third with the third. Now the fourth one will be joined with the second circle. So now you get the basic designing of the infinity mandala. So basically we just drew two sets of circles, and then we are joining them to make them infinity and make them just joined with each other. Now the fifth circle will be joined here with the first. So now you see that we have basically created the loop and joined these two circles very nicely. Now for convenience, just erase the portions that we don't need. So basically these circular portions and these circular portions, we don't need them anymore. So very carefully just erase the extra parts, so that we don't get confused while drawing the patterns later. So when you just erase, then you will see that your basic grid and your basic sketch is ready, and I'm sure that you will be really happy to see that how when we just break the the whole process into smaller steps, it is actually very easy. So very carefully we are just going to erase the extra portions, so that we don't get confused later. And then just if there is any any redoing needed, you can just do it. So basically this is your sketch of the infinity mandala that is ready. Now you can see, now whether you are drawing a vertical infinity mandala or you are drawing a horizontal one, you are easily able to draw that those layers. So basically if you start from this, so you see that this is the first layer which became the fifth layer of the second part, and then this is the second layer which became the fourth layer of the second part. So in this way we are able to create this shape layer by layer. So this gives a really nice look when you are just joining all the layers. So you can even try the same, you can also add more layers or even reduce layers if you wish to. So feel free to just experiment with the number of layers and the distance between the circles as well. But this is the basic procedure, step by step procedure, which made the whole designing very easily. So your basic design of the infinity mandala is ready. Now we are going to move forward to making the grid and making the basic shapes and mandala patterns as well. So now that our basic sketch of the infinity mandala is ready, now we are going to draw the grid. Now drawing the grid in an infinity mandala is the basic remains the same, of course, but there is a little trick which we are going to discuss, because as you can see that this portion right here, this joining portion right here, it is not a circle, and both these circles are actually kind of incomplete circles which are joining each other. So how do we basically create a grid, because we it's never suggested to draw mandala patterns without the grid. So let's see how we can draw the grid. So I'm using the 360-degree protractor right here. If you have the 180-degree, that's perfectly fine. So now just place your protractor in the midpoint. So always remember your midpoints, don't get just don't erase the points. So keep your protractor straight on the midpoint of the protractor should be on the midpoint of your basically your center point. Now just usually like we do, just place your protractor like this, like 90 degrees. So this is the 90 degrees, right, like this. So take your time in just aligning your protractor to the circles, don't just rush, because as I always say, the grid for the mandala can either break or make your mandala design. So grid is a very important part. So I placed the protractor right on the midpoint, and now I am going to mark points at every 10 degrees. Now the 10 degrees grid is actually the most standard and most basic grid, and I usually use 10 degrees only. If you want, you can also experiment with 5 degrees or 15 or even 20 degrees as well, but for this particular design, I would suggest you to stick to stick to 10 degrees only. Why? Because we are going to see when we are drawing basic shapes as well. Now just align your protractor and just hold it so that it doesn't move much, and now we are going to just mark points at every 10 degrees. Now I'm going to start from this point, right? So 80, 70, 60, 50, 40 and 30, 20 and 10, and then here we have the 0. Now when you are coming downwards, so make sure that you have the vertical line and the horizontal line drawn. You just have not erased that as well. So keep on drawing the 10 degree marks, and when you reach the 270 degrees, or basically when you reach the vertical line, just stop right there, right, and then continue from this portion. So like 100 degrees, 110, 20 and like this, keep on continuing. 180, 190, 200, 210 and 20. Now basically if you see that this is not a full complete circle, right, it's not a full complete circle, it is basically starting from this point and basically a portion of the circle. So hence this portion of the protractor, you don't need to mark the points because the circle is not a complete circle. So hence we have just marked points till 220 degrees. So I am repeating the steps once again. Just align your protractor and just mark points at every 10 degrees, but just leave this portion right here because the circle is not complete, it's incomplete. So we are just going to mark points at that portion only. Now we are going to repeat the same in the lower portion as well. Again we are going to mark points only in this portion. When we just reach the vertical line, we are just going to stop. So again align your protractor straight 90 degrees, and now we are going to start marking points. So now you are going to leave this portion like the 9 from the 50 degrees to like 90 degrees. So around 40 degrees of the portion is left in the upper part and in the lower part as well. So leave this portion and start from the 40 degrees. So 40, 30, 20, 10 and then 0, and now keep on drawing and marking points at every 10 degrees. Feel free to rewind if you feel confused between the measurements. 180 and keep on drawing. So this is 180, then 170, 60, 50 and now we reach 90. So just like we marked points at every 10 degrees, so it was not a complete circle, we just came till here. We did the same, we started from this portion and we came till here. So this is the the trick that we use in Infinity Mandala designs, that you don't draw the complete grid for the circles, you just draw a portion of it. Like we left 40 degrees in the upper portion, we also left 40 degrees in the lower portion. So that is the most important trick in Infinity Mandala. So now we are just going to draw the lines to basically complete the grid. So just align your ruler with the point marked and with the midpoint. Now you don't need to draw the lines all over the middle circle, because the middle circle will be empty as we have seen in the design earlier. So you can just draw only the grid for the outer 4 portions like this. You can just leave it, because anyhow we are just leaving this circle, so we don't need the grid in the middle portion. So very carefully just align your ruler to the marked point and make sure that it goes through the center point. This is very important. So if you have learned mandalas, you know how to draw the grid and how important it is to draw each line that goes through the midpoint. Now when you reach at this point, you can start drawing the alternate lines as well, like this. So keep your ruler aligned, draw one line and draw the line here as well. Now if you don't feel comfortable, you can just keep on drawing the half portions, like just draw this one and just come and draw this portion later. So we are just going to complete the grid making. Take your time and feel free to rewind to see the procedure once again if you feel confused. Make sure that every line that you draw goes through the midpoint, and if you want, you can simply draw the entire line and erase it later, but we are not going to draw anything in this portion, so you can just leave it as it is. So let's just complete the grid. Now be careful in this portion. So you see that how easy it is to draw the Infinity Mandala, just like we have just broken down into steps. And now when you reach this portion, just reverse your paper and we are going to start drawing lines for this particular circle. So the same, align your ruler and it must go through the midpoint. So like this. So this vertical line basically works as a guideline for you that this is the portion where the circle is transitioning to the lower circle. So we are going to repeat the same process that we did upwards. So if you want, you can also experiment with 15 degrees grid or 20-degree grid as well, but we are just going to stick with the standard 10 degrees grid. So when you reach this point, you can see that your circle is your circle is kind of joining right here. So now you just draw a few guidelines here and not the complete lines. So this is the grid. So in this way, the grid is basically ready for drawing the basic shapes. So now you can see that when I just broke down the entire process into smaller steps, it is basically so easy for you to draw the Infinity Mandala. So the grid is basically ready, and now we are going to move on to drawing the basic shapes and patterns. So now that our grid for the Infinity Mandala is ready, now we are going to proceed to drawing all the basic shapes and patterns and motifs layer by layer. So as I've already told you that for this particular course I'm using colorful pens. So we have 4 layers and I'm choosing 4 different colors. So orange for the first layer, and then red for the second layer, pink for the third layer, and violet, or you can call it purple, for the fourth layer. Now as I already told you, feel free to choose your own set of colors. If you don't have colored pens or you don't wish to use colors, feel free to stick to the black pen only, and you can also choose just one color of your choice and just draw the entire mandala, because anyhow the technique and the procedure matters. So feel free to choose the colors of your choice and the pens of your choice. So I'm going to use 4 colors in each of the layers. So now we are going to look at the step by step procedure, how we are going to draw the basic shapes, so in a way that the height and width of each of the basic shape remains as same as possible, because symmetry is the most important foundation for mandala art, be it any design, if it's infinity or your regular mandalas. So for example, if I want to draw basic shapes in this particular layer, so as you can see, when we are going from inside to outside, the grid is expanding, and vice versa, when we are going from outside to inside, the grid is decreasing, the grid size. And that's very normal, because that's the main what we call main logic of Infinity Mandala. When you are going from inside to outside, you are expanding, and when you are going from outside to inside, you are decreasing the size of the shapes and the patterns that you have used here. Now the length of basically the length, or you can call the height of each of the basic shapes, will be maintained, because we have drawn circles, and the the size of the as I already told you, that the size of the distance between the circles, so basically the the size, the width of each of the layers is same in all these 4 layers. So the height of all the basic shapes and patterns that we are going to make will remain symmetrical because of this thing. But now how we make sure that the width and the size, overall size of our basic shapes and patterns is also same throughout. So for that, what are we going to do is we are going to take this vertical line as our reference. So when you are just drawing the grid and everything, make sure that you don't erase the vertical line that we drew at the very first step. That is like the transition point for your mandala. So for example, if you see, this circle starts from this point and it goes along, and at this point we are transitioning. So we are going to take this particular line as our transition line, and we have to just transition from the size of all the basic shapes at this point. So this is going to be our reference line or the reference transition area. Now for example, if I start from this particular layer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take two sections to draw my basic shape, because this is a starting layer and we need to have a pretty wide basic shape to draw the mandala. You can also choose one, but I believe one section would be too thin, and it would be like, it would become very asymmetrical when you are like coming down. So I would suggest you that stick to at least two basic shapes for convenience and for maintaining the symmetry as well. So for example, if I start from this point, or you can also start from this particular section, because this is the transition phase. So I'm going to draw any of the basic shapes you can use. You can use the round ones or anything like that. And if you don't have your own mandala pattern repository and you want to learn about mandala patterns and motifs in detail, feel free to enroll for my mandala patterns master course, in which I have discussed all the basic shapes, motifs, and different patterns like simple patterns, intricate, layered, and borders and everything. And basically we have discussed how you can create your own mandala pattern repository with 100 plus patterns. So if you are new to mandala patterns, make sure to check that course as well, and or you can use any of the patterns that you have in your own mandala pattern repository. So feel free to experiment with the basic shapes and patterns of your choice. So for example, if I took like two sections to draw basic shape in this particular layer, now to maintain the width of the basic shape, I am not going to stick to two sections right here, because as you can see that we are transitioning from the inside layer, which is the thinnest layer, to the most outside layer, which is the thickest layer. So to make sure that the width of our basic shape remains intact, from this transition point we are going to take one section to draw the basic shape. Although it's totally fine that if the width of the basic shape is not exactly same, because to be honest, it's not important to just make all the basic shapes of the same size, because we are anyhow expanding. So but we have to make sure that we are able to maintain the symmetry and the size of the basic shapes and patterns as much as possible. So for that, you just take two sections in this layer, and when you are transitioning, make sure to take one section, so that we are able to maintain the symmetry as much as possible. And we are going to repeat the same. So for example, if you are taking one section for the second layer, or even if you are taking two sections, so when you are coming down, make sure to transition to either one section or two section. Now this transitioning also depends upon the the layer in which we are drawing. So for example, in the first and the last layers, the transitioning is the most crucial, and we have to focus a lot in maintaining the width and height of the basic shapes we are drawing. So for example, in the first layer we are going to transition a little bit more as compared to the second and the third layer, because as you can see that the second and third layer, the sections are pretty same in the upper circle and in the lower circle as well. So for example, in the first layer, if you took like two sections for each of your basic shape till here, now to maintain the size of the basic shape, you are going to transition to taking one section for drawing the basic shape, and the same is going to happen in this particular area as well. But as you can see that in the second and third layer, if you choose like one section, and when you are coming downwards and transitioning, you can still just take one section and keep on drawing the basic shapes, because it is pretty much similar. So we are going to do that, and we are also going to outline all the circles with the black pen or any of the pens that you are using, so that it is easier and convenient for us to maintain the symmetry, and so that we are able to highlight all the layers separately, and it's not looking chaotic or in that way. So now I am going to first draw the basic shapes layer by layer, and I'm also going to explain you the detail, and then we are also going to outline and draw the motifs as well. So now let's just quickly start drawing all the basic shapes and patterns one by one. So I'm going to start with the first layer, and I'm using orange colored pen for my first layer. So now, as I've already told you about the transitioning, so for convenience we are going to instead of starting from this point, we are going to start from this point, and I'm going to take two sections for each of the basic shape in the first layer, and then we are going to we are basically going to draw in this way, and then we are going to come down. So you can also start from this point, but to make sure that we this is the transition area, and this is the point where most of the people just mess up with the basic shape, and to maintain that I'm going to draw one basic shape right here, and then I'm going to proceed further in anti-clockwise direction. So if you don't feel comfortable to draw your basic shape in upside down, feel free to just tilt your paper and then draw it. Feel free to use any of the basic shape of your choice. So I'm just going to draw this, and you can just follow me along, and if you feel, you can pause the video and take your own time in drawing the shapes as well. Feel free to use any of the colors of your choice. Now when you come to this point, you will notice that your basic shape is kind of incomplete, because this is the outline that joins the upper circle from the downward circle. So make sure to do that as well. Just you don't need to draw the entire basic shape, because otherwise it will be overlapping. So basically the logic here of Infinity Mandala is that this circle is overlapping this circle, this circle is overlapping this circle. So that is the main logic behind it. Now as you can see that we have taken two sections. Now if I take two sections in this point, while transitioning, what will happen is that the basic shape will be too wide, and it won't look it won't look beautiful, to be honest, and it would look like too much of a transition. But in mandalas we have to maintain the symmetry. So for that, from this point I'm going to take one section to draw my basic shape. Now you will notice that when you are drawing at in the upward circle, in the first circle, your basic shapes are facing outwards, or they are facing upwards, but when you are coming down, they will be facing inwards. So that is again the logic behind infinity shape or infinity mandala, that you go from outward to inward, and you go from inward to outward, or you can also say that you go from upward to downward, or you go downward to upward. So that is the main. So if you don't feel comfortable to draw your basic shapes in upside down fashion, you can just tilt your paper like this and keep on drawing your basic shapes. Now as you can see that if we had chosen to continued with the selecting two sections to draw the basic shape, it would have been too wide, and you won't be able to see the symmetry right here. But since we are transitioning, so it's very it looks symmetrical in that way. So this is the way you can transition in an infinity mandala, and that's how and Infinity Mandala is very different yet interesting than the regular mandala. So I am just going to draw the basic shapes one by one. Now you can see that all your basic shapes are facing inwards or like facing downwards when you are coming down, and that's how you know that you are going in the right direction and you are drawing your mandala patterns in the perfect way. So I'm going to just complete it, and you can just follow along with me. Feel free to pause if you need more time to draw. You can choose any basic shape of your choice. Feel free to take your own time as well. So again, when you come to this point where the circles are overlapping, you don't need to completely draw the basic shape, just make it till the outline. So you have to make sure of the outlines as well, just don't go and just draw the basic shapes everywhere, just make sure of the outline as well. So now you can see that like it's coming together and it's looking so pretty and symmetrical as well. So I'll repeat the process once again. You take two sections for the inward layer, and then when you are transitioning at this point after that line, you start taking one section to ensure that the size of the basic shape that you are drawing remains intact. So now we are going to repeat the process in the other layers as well, but before that just outline, draw the outline as well, so that all the layers are separated from each other and we are able to maintain that symmetry throughout. You just have to outline. You can also use a black pen for outline even if you are using colors, but as I already told you that I am using 4 colors for this particular artwork, so I am going to stick to that. So very carefully take your own time and just outline the pencil lines as you go downwards. Just go section by section instead of drawing the entire circle at once. So in this way we just completed our one layer. So for this outer layer we are going to complete it later. You can also just stick to drawing it with the orange pen, or you can just use a black pen, but we are going to keep this portion for the end. So in this way we are going to proceed for our other layers as well. Now for the second layer, as I already told you that I am using the red pen. Now as you can see in the second and the third layer, there is not too much of the transitioning in the size of the grid that's happening, right? Like this was like a too much of a transition. So what are we going to do is we are going to stick with one like 2 sections right here in this layer, and when we come down we are again going to stick to 2 sections, so that we are able to maintain the symmetry as much as possible. So again start from this point as I already told you, so that we are able to easily transition here as well. So start from this point and draw one basic shape. Now I am taking like 2 sections, and then you can rotate your paper and continue drawing the basic shape just like we did in the orange layer. So basically we are just repeating the same process. This drawing these basic shapes is a very crucial part of your Infinity Mandala. So make sure to take your own time. If you need more time, make sure to pause the session and just draw. So again, when you come to this overlapping point, just make sure that you don't overlap the orange patterns right here. Just end the layer. So now in this red layer you kind of have like two options. So what you can do is you can either continue taking two sections and keep on drawing the basic shapes. So what would happen is the size would transition a little bit, like it won't be too much. Like if we had taken the two sections in the orange layer, the transition would be like too much and it won't look symmetrical. But as I already told you that in the second and third layer we like have choices. So you can either continue like the orange layer, like you took like two sections till this transition point and now stick to one section each, or you can also like choose like two sections. The only difference would here be like the width of your basic shape would increase a little bit, but since it is the middle layer it would be perfectly fine. So you can just experiment or you can just follow along with me. I'm going to stick to the one section portion. Like for example, in the upper section we are taking two sections and in the lower circle we are taking one section. So I'm going to stick to that. If you want, feel free to experiment. I would suggest you that stick to the procedure that I am discussing right here, and when you have completed the mandala you can experiment with the other variations that I am telling you. So let's continue using one section each for the red layer as well. So feel free to tilt your paper if you don't feel comfortable to draw the basic shapes in inward direction. So there is one more point that I need to tell you, that the starting point while drawing an infinity mandala should always be same. So if you are choosing to start your basic shapes from the up, from this circle, so make sure that in every layer you are starting from this circle only, because as you can see that when we are transitioning, our patterns are facing inwards. So if you just go up and down, so for example if you like start from this point, but for the second layer you are starting from this circle, so what will happen is like it will like be either be like it won't be symmetrical. So you have to make sure that, remember that all of the layers, all of the patterns basically in this particular circle are facing outwards or are facing upwards, while all the shapes and patterns in this particular circle are facing inwards. So the steps, the procedure is pretty simple. You just have to remember a few things and you will be good to go. So now we are just completing the second layer as well. Feel free to take your own time, pause if you need more, and once you have completed this particular design, feel free to try taking two sections as well and see how the mandala looks, because to be honest there is no wrong or right way. It's just we are aiming to maintain the symmetry of a mandala as much as possible. Feel free to choose your favorite colors or shapes or patterns. Now again at this point just make the portion which is visible and don't just overlap, make sure of the outline as well. Now just like we did in the orange layer, we are also going to just outline the red layer as well. Go section by section. So we are just outlining, and therefore your pencil sketch and grid needs to be as perfect as possible, so that when you are using your pens, you are just outlining them and not drawing them, because that's very obvious that you cannot erase pens, but you can erase your pencil mistakes as many times as you need. So this outlining basically helps us to make the layers separate from each other. So this was your second layer of the Infinity Mandala. So now for the third layer, I am using the pink pen. So now as you can see that in the third layer, the size of the sections is very close to each other. There is not much of a transitioning that's happening as it was happening earlier. So what we can do is, we can easily just stick to either one section or two section, but we are going to stick to it throughout our design. So for example, if you are taking like two sections for drawing the basic shape in this area, you can use two section for this area as well, and vice versa, because as you can see that there is not too much of a transition. So let's stick to two sections for the pink layer. So I'm again going to start from this point, and I'm going to draw one basic shape here, so that we are we can easily transition and then continue. You can take one section if you don't feel like drawing this much wide basic shapes. So the size and the transitioning that's happening is also depends upon on the layers that you have added. So for example, in this particular design we have added 4 layers, hence we are seeing a lot of transition that is happening. But if you use like less layers, like 2 or 3 layers, there won't be much of the transitioning that is happening. So feel free to draw more variations of the same design, and you can also like draw more layers. Like we have just stick to 4 layers, feel free to add more layers and go on till 5 and 6, as many as you want. You can also like reduce or increase the width of the circle, the distance between the circles as well. So feel free to do that as well. Make sure to experiment as much as possible and see what works for you. Now unlike the first and the second layer, in this layer we are going to stick with 2 sections as well, so that we are able to maintain the symmetry as much as possible. So feel free to pause if you need more time. So as you can see, there is not too much of the transitioning happening. Yes, I agree that the size of the basic shape is not exactly same, but it is also not like too much wider in that way, like in the orange and the red layer. So again, in Infinity Mandala, it actually depends upon all the sizes and all the shapes that we are drawing. It varies from layer to layer. Now again, at this point, just make the pattern as needed, and then outline as well. Now just like the orange and the red layer, we are also going to outline is the pink layer. Now you can see that how beautiful it's coming along as we proceed slowly, layer by layer. So to be honest, every mandala design and every type of mandala art if broken down into steps is actually very easy. So just take your time and just understand all the steps and follow along with me, and then also practice and experiment with the number of layers. So when you have completed this course, just feel free to experiment with the number of layers, like try it with 2 layers or 3 layers, or like even more, like 5-6 layers. Try out different combinations of patterns and grids as well. since this layer was in the middle, there was not too much of the transitioning happening, and hence we just modified our approach a little bit. So this was your third layer. Now for the fourth layer, we are going to use the procedure that we used in the orange layer, because now in the orange layer we were going from inside to outside, and now we are going from outside to inside. So basically just remember the procedure and that we used in the orange layer, and follow the same, but in like in an upside, like in a reverse direction. So basically, like in the orange layer, we started taking two sections for the basic shape, and then when we transition, we just stick to one section. So now we are going to do the reverse. We are going to start with one section, and then when we are transitioning, we are going to start with the two sections each for the the purple layer. So that's how we are going to proceed. So now you can understand that how Infinity Mandala works. You are going from inside to outside, and then when and when you proceed further, you are going from outside to inside. So now let's just just like all the other layers, I'm going to start from this particular section. I'm going to draw one basic shape, and then I'm going to complete this particular section as well. So basically the logic remains the same. You just have to modify the approach as you proceed further, and proceed further in all the layers. So I'm just going to complete this layer. Feel free to pause and take your own time. So now in this Infinity Mandala, the size of the basic shapes and the layers actually doesn't matter much, because we are anyhow drawing not exactly a circular mandala. So the approach is different, hence the patterns and basic shapes and the procedure is also different. So using colors actually highlights all the layers pretty well, and it looks really interesting. It looks actually more interesting. But if you don't use colored pens, feel free to go on with the black usual. Just do your own thing in terms of colors and patterns. Just pick up what you feel like. Now we have completed this. Now when you reach the lower portion, make sure to transition to two sections. So in this way. So now you see that the only thing that you have to keep in mind is that the size of the basic shape and pattern should be as symmetrical as possible, even if you have to break the rules of drawing mandala in that way. So basically these are like two circular mandalas joined together to form an infinity shape. So at this point, be careful and just draw as much needed. Now we are going to again outline the area as well, just like we did in all the layers. So go section by section instead of drawing the entire circle at once. In that way you will be easily drawing the entire circle very conveniently. So you see that adding colors, using colors, it's just highlighting all the layers in such a pretty way. So I would suggest you to use colors, but again it's totally up to you. If you use black mandala, black in all of your mandalas, it's totally fine. So our last layer is also complete. Now I'm just going to add the the border in the orange layer as well, so that we are able to complete the the basic sketch. So just draw the lower portion of the orange section as well. So now you can see that our infinity mandala is already looking so pretty, and all the basic shapes, like even if it's the first layer or the second or the last layer, all of these are so symmetrical, even though we had to change the the grid measurement and the width of each of the sections. So in this way you can easily draw all the basic shapes while following certain rules and while following a procedure. So this is the way in which you can draw all your basic shapes. Now I am going to just add one more outline in all of these basic shapes. To be honest, it is a very optional step. It actually depends upon the artist and the type of mandala designs or the layers that you are using. But I always just double outline the basic shapes as well, so that all the patterns and motifs that we are drawing they are very well highlighted, and they look like they pop up in all your design. So this is an optional step. If you don't usually do the double outlining, feel free to skip this step and move to the next session, but I would suggest you to just do the double outlining as well. So in now I'm just going to follow that and do that and complete our basic shapes portion of the entire artwork. So now you are just going to like replicate the shape that you have drawn one by one. So again, if you don't feel comfortable to draw the upside down shapes, feel free to rotate your paper as per your convenience. So basically now you can see that the mandala in the upper circle is like facing outwards or facing upwards, while the mandala in the in the second circle is facing inwards. So basically that is the main logic behind the infinity shape. You start from outwards and you then go inwards, or vice versa, you start from inwards and then you go outwards. So this is a very interesting design that just is very different from the usual mandala art. So now we are just going to repeat the same process in all the layers. Feel free to play some music in the background if you feel bored. You can also take a break, or you can also skip this step, but I would suggest you to always draw these outlines, because it kind of highlights all your patterns and motifs that you are drawing inside your basic shape. So just like the first and the second layer, we are going to continue this for the third layer as well. When you complete the third layer, move on to the last layer. Feel free to pause if you haven't completed it and take your own time. Now we have completed this step as well by just drawing all the outlines. Now we are going to, since we are going to move on to drawing the patterns now, so I would suggest you to erase the entire grid and all the pencil lines, because as you might know that when you draw like over your pencil lines, you are not able to erase the pencil lines after that. So for example, if I want to draw a pattern or a motif right here, and if I draw over this pencil line, it will show up later as well, because the colors are not too dark. So you can do this step after you have completed the entire mandala, or you can do this now. I am doing it now, and I would also suggest you to erase all the pencil lines at this stage. So now we are just going to erase all the pencil lines very carefully. If you need the pencil lines to draw your motifs, feel free to keep them, but then you have to ensure that you don't you are careful while drawing all the patterns at that point as well. Since all the grid work is completed and we have nothing to do with the grid, we can simply erase it and move on to the next step. Feel free to take a break if your hands feel tired. You don't have to complete the entire design at one go. Anyways, you have lifetime access to this course. So just make sure that you are taking care of yourself and your posture as well. So after erasing all the pencil lines, you can see that our layout, basically the basic sketch and layout of our Infinity Mandala is complete. Now we are going to start with the patterns layer by layer. Now we are going to draw all the fillers, basically all the motifs and patterns layer by layer. So feel free to choose any of the patterns and motifs of your choice, and if you want to learn about motifs and patterns in detail, feel free to join my Mandala Patterns master course. And if you already know about mandala patterns and all the motifs, you can choose any of the patterns of your choice, and you can simply also get my mandala patterns ebook if you want, like just a repository of all the mandala patterns. So feel free to just do as you want to, and we are just going to draw patterns. Make sure to use your favorite patterns if you have any, or just stick to the ones that I am using right here. So for the very first layer, I am just going to draw this water droplet pattern. So I am going to just start and draw 3 petals right here. So you can also draw more than 3 petals, like 5, or you can also use any of the other motifs as well. So I am just going to fill up all the basic shapes one by one. Just take your own time in selecting the patterns, in drawing and finalizing the patterns of your choice. And just make sure that you enjoy the process. If you want, you can just play some music in the background as well, because now all that explanation and everything is finally over, and we are just drawing and completing the mandala layer by layer. So let's just enjoy the process in some silence. Make sure to take your own time and pause the video if you need. I have discussed how to draw all the motifs and patterns in my Mandala Patterns master course one by one. So if you want that, you can just make sure to enroll for that as well. Because in this course we are just discussing the process of Infinity Mandala, like how to draw the grid and how to transition, like as you saw. So just keeping the course as simple as possible. You can also use more colors, like you can use any other color inside the basic shape. So feel free to just experiment with patterns and colors of your choice. Just go with the flow and enjoy the process, and in no time your infinity mandala will be ready. So at this point just draw one petal and you will be good to go. Now as you can see in this pattern, there I have filled the background with the orange color, so I am going to do that as well in this layer. So with this, our first layer, which is the orange layer, is complete. Now we are going to move on to the next layer. So just like the first layer, I'm going to pick up a pattern for the red layer as well. So I'm going to choose a mixed motif pattern right here, which again I have discussed in my mandala patterns master course, and it is also available in the mandala patterns ebook. So you can choose any of your choice. So we are just going to complete this layer as well. Take your own time, feel free to pause or rewind, or complete the design later or as you feel comfortable. So you can see that the size of the basic shape is has reduced a little bit as we transition, and it's perfectly fine. You don't have to worry about this. So just reduce the size of your pattern or motif in accordance with the size of the basic shape, and you are good to go. Feel free to choose any other pattern if you have any other pattern in your mind, or you can just stick to the ones that I am making and follow along. Now at this point we just make a portion of the motif. Now as you can see here, the reference pattern The background is also filled, so I'm just going to do that as well in this layer. Make sure to take a break if your hands feel tired. And with this we have completed the second layer of our Infinity Mandala as well. Now for the third layer I have chosen a layered pattern, and again I have discussed all of these different kinds of pattern, like the simple ones, the layered ones, and everything step by step in my mandala patterns master course, so feel free to check that out if you want to. So I'm just going to take a layered pattern because this the size of the basic shape is pretty big as compared to the other ones. Feel free to use any of the patterns of your choice. So adjust the size of the motif as you come downwards, because the size of the basic shape is reducing a little bit, and since there is not too much of a transition happening, it's pretty easy for us to maintain the symmetry here. So with this our third layer is also completed. Now we are moving to the last layer of our infinity mandala, and I have selected this particular combination pattern, which includes a paisley pattern and the lines. Feel free to choose any pattern of your choice, and just like all the other layers, we are going to continue drawing patterns and complete this layer as well. Take your own time in drawing all the patterns and filling all the layers one by one. Make sure that you don't hurt your back, shoulders, neck or even hands, and take enough breaks whenever you need to. And make sure to sit with your back straight and maintain your posture as well, because it does matter a lot. and with this our last layer is also complete. So our infinity mandala is actually complete, but for this last session I would suggest you to fill these empty sections, white sections as well. Like this is totally up to you. You can leave it as it is, because anyhow your infinity mandala is complete. But in this design we are just going to fill these spaces as well, layer by layer. So in this session we are just going to do that, and give the infinity mandala a cleaner look and just complete it. So let's just go layer by layer. So this step basically highlights all your layers and adds volume to your design. So you can definitely give it a try, or if you don't wish to, you can just skip it, because anyhow your infinity mandala is ready and complete. Now we are going to continue the same in all the layers one by one. As you can see that this is adding a lot more volume and clarity to your design, and all the basic shapes and patterns that you have drawn up till now, they are popping out and visible in such a nice way. So although this is an optional step, but I would suggest you to just go for it and see what difference it makes to your design. Now we are going to do the same with the red layer as well. And similarly we are also going to complete the last orange layer as well. So now you can already see that the entire look and feel of your Infinity Mandala has changed a lot, and it looks much more complete, and all the basic shapes and pattern are much more clearly visible and highlighted as well. So I would suggest you to add this particular step in your Infinity Mandala design as well, and always feel free to try some more things, like you can take more different colors. So for example, you can take some contrasting colors on the background instead of using the same shades. If you are using black, you can just stick with black, and you can also draw some motifs in this section as well. So feel free to try different things, and just experiment with the overall design as well.